Welcome back to Philosophy of Mind. We're going to be talking about altered states of consciousness. And as we talk about these altered states, you want to ask yourself a couple of questions. How is consciousness involved in these altered states? And what do altered states tell us about reality? So those are the two ways of thinking about altered states. Obviously, in relation to this class, we want to think about, altered states. Are they just unusual and we shouldn't worry about them? We want to focus on normal conscious states and get an explanation by that. Or do altered states tell us something about consciousness by virtue of being different? And then reality. How are we to think about what altered states tell us about reality? Do altered states give us information about an alternate sort of reality, or is it just all craziness? So these are the kinds of questions that we'll be asking. In thinking about altered states, you can think about them in terms of phenospace. Blackmore asks if we can map altered states and the ways in which they're altered, and the categories of phenospace can help us do that. So there are four categories. First is attention, that your attention is directed outward or inward. Are you thinking more? Is your alteration an alteration of the world that you're experiencing, or is the alteration something that's about yourself and how you're attending to yourself? Is the attention global or focused? Are you thinking, is your alteration a matter of generally thinking about everything, or do you really narrowly focus on one specific thing? Your memory, how is your thinking affected? How is your emotion and time perception affected by the altered states? And arousal, is your arousal high or low? Do you feel like you're about to fall asleep, or are you really super energized by the altered state? And then perception, is your perception veridical or hallucinatory? And we'll talk about various different kinds of hallucinations, especially with respect to the question of reality and whether the hallucination is an altered reality, or is it just a mistake about this reality? Your body sense and your control, how are your perceptions altered with respect to those continua? So these are four categories of phenospace, and so think for the different altered states that we'll talk about dreaming, near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, hallucinations, mystical experiences. These are some of the altered states that we'll be talking about. And so as we go through each one, think about how they figure in terms of these categories of phenospace. And also, if you do your journal exercise on one of the altered states or some of the altered states, be thinking about these categories in identifying your own experiences of altered states. Dreaming is one category of altered states that most of us have experienced. Common, vivid dreams at night. Maybe you have lots of them, maybe you only have a few, but most people have had some kind of dreaming. And dreaming is one of those interesting areas of discussion for consciousness. We normally think of your sleep states as being unconscious states, but in terms of thinking about phenomenology and phenomenal consciousness as being the defining factor of what consciousness is, we're thinking about there being something that it's like to have that experience, then arguably dreaming is a kind of conscious experience. And in thinking about this particular author, Jennifer Vint, she describes sleep as phenomenologically rich and supporting diverse kinds of experiences. And she adopts what's called the simulation view, that dreaming involves experience of a self in a world. So according to Vint, dreams are conscious experiences. In fact, there are lots of different kinds of conscious experiences while you're sleeping. So you can't think of sleep as simply a state of unconsciousness when you're thinking about what it's like, that there are different kinds of things that it's like. And according to her, dreaming is a simulation of the real world, that you experience your conscious self in your dream in a similar sort of way that you would experience your conscious self in a waking state. And so one of the questions then with respect to dreaming is, what makes it a simulation? Why is dreaming simulating and not experiencing as it is in the real world, in in anticipation of the question of reality. Jennifer Vince's response, the simulation view, is a scientist response. So that means that she does think there is consciousness, and describing dreams as a kind of conscious experience suggests that that's what's going on. And she wants to try to explain what this experience involves. Think about this experience in physical terms. So that's what the simulation view is. And you can think about whether you agree with this. Do you think your dreams are a simulation of your waking state? Do you think your dreams are conscious? Are there conscious experiences happening during your dreams? So this is the scientist response, and we'll look more at what she says in the simulation view, that dreams are immersive. So you are immersed, you feel like you're part of this dreaming experience. And her view is consistent with its part of the phenomenal self model view. And she says that what you're simulating in the dream is your minimal phenomenal self. So you have this conscious experience, you're immersed in your dream experience. You have a sense of your body. You have that mindness as part of your body in the dream. There is a spatiotemporal self-location, so you can say where you are in the dream. And there's a weak first-person perspective. There's a geometrical, egocentric model of the body in the world. This is in the dream experience. So you're dreaming, you're immersed in the dream, you are having a sense of your body, and your body is in space. And this is what is the minimal phenomenal self that occurs in the dream. So the question then again is, as you're dreaming, is this what it's like for you to be dreaming? One of the questions that comes up with respect to dreaming is this first person perspective. Maybe you have a third person perspective in the dream. What would that be? What would a third person perspective be in a dream? Do you have colors in your dream? Do you have images in your dream? Maybe you have dreams that are just thoughts. What would those involve? Are those also conscious? How do those relate to your to the simulation view? So be thinking about how your experiences figure with respect to these different theories of dreaming. An alternative theory of dreaming was developed in the Blackmore chapter, and she talks about the retroselection theory of dreaming. And on this view, the evidence about your dream content is your report. So when do you have any evidence about your dreams? You have your evidence when you wake up and you talk about your dreams. And these reports happen later. And so the retroselection view is that your dreams are written at the time of waking, and they're based on multiple threads. So this is very consistent with the multiple drafts model, that your brain is processing all these different things while you're awake and then also while you're sleeping, and that these processes are what the brain is doing. It's not producing consciousness, because consciousness isn't anything, it's an illusion. So this is an eliminativist theory. And then, consistent with dreaming, you have dreams then when you wake up, and you report, just as in your waking states, what you're conscious of is just what you remember and report, consistent with the multiple drafts theory. So there's no show during sleep, there's no show during waking, there are just the different reports that you make as you're having, these sleep experiences and these waking experiences. It's just brain processing of perceptual information, no show, just the stories, just the reports. So again, think about your own experiences of dreaming. Does it seem to you that you just have these reports when you wake up, and is it a matter of remembering, or do you feel like the dreaming happens during the night? Are you having this show of this made up dream world? Are you immersed in it? These are two competing ways of thinking about your dreams based on these different responses to the heart problem. The scientist response, that there's conscious experience during dreaming. The eliminativist response, that there is no consciousness. There's just the remembering and reporting that you produce when you wake up. Right? Two different ways of thinking about that. Now there's this other phenomena that some of you may have experienced, this phenomena of lucid dreaming. And in lucid dreaming, you're aware that you're dreaming and you're able to control the dream. So this can happen in various ways. There are various techniques to try to produce lucid dreaming. Uh, One way to think about what's going on in a lucid dream is a distinction between your primary consciousness and your secondary consciousness. Primary consciousness is your representation of your dream contents as present. So that's phenomenal self-model view, the simulation view that you're simulating the contents of your dream while you're dreaming, and that's what appears to you. And then in lucid dreaming, you have a secondary consciousness, which is a higher order representation of the conscious dream. Now, make sure that though this is called a higher order, you don't confuse this with a higher order representation view of consciousness. So this is not saying that the higher order state makes your dream conscious. It's saying the higher order state makes your dream self-conscious. So you're conscious just by virtue of having the dream. Again, on the simulation view, you're having this conscious experience. And then what happens in lucid dreaming is you have a higher order reflective representation of those dream contents. You say, ah, wow, I am now dreaming. I am aware of the fact that I'm having this conscious dream. So it's a secondary conscious state. It's a self-conscious state of the formerly straightforward conscious dream experience. So that's the idea of lucid dreaming, and a way to think about lucid dreaming in terms of two different orders of consciousness, consciousness and self-consciousness. Now, one of the things that's interesting about lucid dreaming is the way in which it appears to be a counter to the retroselection theory. So again, remember the retroselection theory said that you don't have any conscious experience during the night. It's just when you wake up that you take these various threads of brain processing and you put them together into the story. Now, on lucid dreaming, you're having that experience during the night. So you're having a conscious experience of that other conscious experience. And so it looks like lucid dreaming says, no, I was aware of my conscious experience during that experience. It didn't happen once I woke up later on. It was during the experience. And there are some interesting phenomena that have been done with lucid dreamers. You can train a lucid dreamer to report during the dream. So you tell them, okay, once you start lucid dreaming, what I want you to do is move your eyes back and forth 10 times. So you can, control your dreaming. And so you control where you look in the dream. You can look to the right, you look to the left, you look to the right, look to the left. Do that 10 times. And then that will move your actual eyes back and forth 10 times, because our eyes are one of those things that doesn't paralyze while we're dreaming. And so the researcher then, you're in a sleep lab, the researcher then can monitor when that happens during the night, and then after you do the 10 times back and forth, wake you up, and then you say, yes, I was lucid dreaming, that's what happened. And so we have a correlation of what's going on in the dream with a real-time objective data point of your eyes moving while you were in the dream doing this. So if the retroselection theory is right, it looks like you're just producing this report afterwards, but this lucid dream evidence suggests that during the night you're having this, during the dream you're having this experience where you're controlling your eye movements back and forth. Now you might think, well, how might a multiple draft retroselection theory theorist respond to this objection? How might you talk about what's going on in a lucid dream so that it's consistent with the retroselection reporting theory of consciousness? And I'll give you a little hint as you're thinking about this, is think about what a report is and what happens during lucid dreaming. And so that's going to be your little hint about how a response might go for a multiple drafts retroselection sort of theory.